Is it possible to score high in IELTS listening task within the short duration of, let's say, 2 weeks? This video is on that. Hi, my name is Abdullah and I have been a faculty of IELTS for the last 14 years. I am going to be talking about my experiences and observation of the last 14 years to make your test starting strategy effective. If you look at IELTS, it's a lengthy examination. The duration is about 3 hours. But the first task that will be given to you is going to be the listening task, the duration of which is about 30 minutes. This task is same whether you are applying for the academic test or for the general test. So what's my first advice? The first advice is get to know about the pattern of this task. In this task, you'll be provided quite a few conversations, which would also include a monologue, which could be like a lecture that is being delivered in a classroom. You are expected to listen to them and then you are expected to answer the questions that have been separately provided. And yes, you are also provided a third element, the answer sheet. One of the mistakes people do is they tend to write all the answers in the question paper. This will not be evaluated. What will be evaluated is the answers that are presented in the answer sheet, and that is something that you need to remember. But what is going to be my first advice here? The first advice is set the answer sheet aside. When you are listening to the task and you are answering the questions, please see to it that the concentration is limited to these two. So during the first stage, when you are answering the questions, answer them in the question paper itself. IELTS does provide you 10 extra minutes to transfer the answers from the question paper to the main answer sheet. So take this first advice very seriously. The second advice I have for you is to read the instructions very carefully. When you read the instructions, you will realize the fact that for each of the questions, something important is mentioned. It could be just to say that don't answer more than 2 words or answer it in 3 words. If answers are of 4 words, then you will be penalized, which means stick to the instruction. One very important element of the task you should know is the questions are given in order of the way they actually appear in the conversation. So my next advice is going to be try to read as many questions as possible. Getting to know of what is expected to be heard will actually improve your chance of catching the answer. So as many questions as you can remember, try to remember, and then when you start the conversation, because the questions and the conversations come in the same order, you will be able to find out the answer and then immediately transfer it to the question paper. Please do beware. Remember the fact that these conversations are not repeated the second time, therefore the concentration has to be extremely heavy. This is where a few more points of caution I would like to talk about. Point number 1 in that would be, see to it that you are transferring exactly what is being said. For example, if the conversation uses a plural, see to it that the answer that you are writing also is a plural. Singular, then it has to be singular. Similarly, spellings are very material. Quite often in the conversation, they will actually be dictating the word or probably a number. Watch out for these. Immediately note it down as you hear, and yes, stick to those spellings. Words where the spellings are not been enunciated, see to it that you are preferring the British spelling rather than American or any other. Yes, these are small things, but these are also material. Do remember, a wrong spelling will basically end up in penalty for you, which is actually not a good news. One of the toughest question types that you will come across in the listening is what is known as a plan type, a flow type. So you will be given certain plans with few data missing. You are supposed to be listening to the conversation. It could be about an itinerary for a picnic trip. It could be about various things, the way they have been kept in a library. You are listening to them and then you are filling the missing spaces. These things can be practiced. Can we complete all this in 2 weeks? Answer is yes. 2 weeks is a huge amount of time. The challenge in the listening section of the IELTS is only to getting to know the pattern and getting used to this pattern. So write as many mocks as possible. And believe me, once you do that, you will find this section to be one of the easiest sections. Parallelly, see to it that you're getting used to various accents. Because in IELTS, the accent is not just limited to British. You have British accent, American accent, Australian accent all being brought together, because IELTS is no more an exam only for the British. The point to be understood is, the moment you start watching more movies, the moment you start listening to more international news, the moment you start watching sitcoms, these become comfortable to your ears. Most of us are not very comfortable with foreign accent. That's because we are not used to it. My solution to all this? Get used to it. Scoring high in listening section of IELTS is not tough. Rock it.